Hey, what is up, you guys, and welcome to this episode of Eddie's Customs and Restorations. So I got the Chevelle up on jack stands right now because I have a massive oil leak. And when I say massive, that's what I mean by massive right there. That was just last night. I parked it last night, and I got a really bad rear main seal leak. So you see, that's real bad. So I really want to avoid having to take the motor out completely. So let's see what we could do to not have to pull the complete motor out. Okay, so far what I got going on is I took my headers loose, took the spark plugs out, of course, because when the headers stay down and the motor starts to come up, I'm gonna shear the tops of my spark plugs if I don't take them out. So spark plugs are out, headers are loose or off. All the wires, of course, they were in my way, so I to take the header bolts off, so I took the wires off. I took the distributor cap loose, just the distributor cap. I didn't take the whole assembly out. Take the two little flatheads or Phillips head deals off, push in, rotate, that. The two motor mounts, so there's one right there, and then the other one on the other side right there. Okay, so far that is all I've done. I did not take the cooling system, I didn't open my cooling system, so that's intact. If you got AC, or if I had my AC hooked up, I wouldn't have had to remove any or open the AC system either. So far that is all I've done. Of course, removed air cleaner. I lifted the motor up, and I used some of these straps. Of course, I tripled it up because they only have like a 400-pound 500-pound rating or something like that. So tripling it up, you're raising up your weight tolerances like that. So that is how I'm lifting that up. I didn't have a chain on hand right now. Now I am hitting the firewall with the tranny, so this is as high as I can go. I'm gonna come down underneath the car so I can show you what amount of space we're working with. So that is the room that we're working with. Hopefully that's enough. I've already taken the front two bolts off. As you can see way over there, I took the first two 7/16 head bolts off, and hopefully I'm gonna be able to clear this. If not, well, I'm already here, so guys, I can't stress enough how important it is for you guys to be extra safe. So I got a jack stand here, I have another one over there. On the other side, I have my jack right there, I have another jack stand over there. As far as for the motor, since of course I'm dealing with a strap right here that can pop, I mean, I am fully aware that's that there's a possibility of that happening. So my precautionary measures, so that I don't blow my fingers down there if this motor falls, there's another jack stand down there. I believe that's a 6-ton jack stand, and that one is right underneath the harmonic balancer, which is right at the snout of the crankshaft, not the pulley. Don't put it in front of the pulley, because of course if that thing comes falling down and you got aluminum pulleys or whatever, I mean, worst case scenario, you're gonna break that, so don't trust the pulley, trust the balancer and back. So I'm gonna keep attacking this, and we're gonna see if I'm able to replace the rear main seal without having to take the motor out. Well, it sucks to be me. If it wasn't for that windage tray, the sump, or the straw of the oil pump that you see right there, I'm gonna call it a straw, but yeah, it's hitting the windage tray, and it needs to go forward first in order for it to drop down. Well, I cannot go forward because I'm hitting the cross member. Man. Woo. Okay. Man, I was finally able to get this thing out. So that's the tray that I was talking about. And the pickup tube, you know, I was having trouble getting over that circle right there. That's your pickup tube with the little filter strainer deal right there. So that little tray, that windage tray, whatever, that is what was stopping me from being able to pull the pan down. So if you know what you have, if you know that your oil pan does not have that tray, then you would be able to take it off. And well, I didn't fully pull the motor out though. So let me show you what I did. What I actually ended up doing was I took the bell housing bolts loose, of course the torque converter bolts loose as well. And to make it easier on yourself, leave the starter on. Well, in my case, I have one of the little starters, and I left that guy plugged in, and I put a little trigger for it. So all you do is you hook it up right there to the solenoid, one on the hot side, the other one on the signal, and just, you know, crank it, and that's how you make your flywheel turn without you having to be there under there fighting it. So disconnect the torque converter bolts, bell housing bolts, and that is literally it. I didn't take my radiator hoses loose or anything. They're all hooked up. I left all my accessories. I did have to take the carb off because I ended up having to put my plate on there, of course, because I wasn't going to be able to just pull the motor from the front. So I had to pull it out right, you know. However, it's not all the way out, so everything is still hooked up. So now I'm gonna have to replace the rear main from down there, the two-piece rear main seal, and you basically just slide the top one out from the top, and you know, slide the new one in, and of course make sure that all your oil pan surface is completely dry before you put your new gasket on there, because if not, of course, you're going to develop a leak as well. Other than that, make sure you put your rear main seal on correctly. There's a right and wrong way to put it. There's a little lip that's like that on the rear main seal. That is going to be towards the inside of the motor. Of course, that way the oil crashes into the little cup and it just flows back in. So make sure you get that on right. Do not put it backwards, because if not, all this was for nothing. Okay, this little paper deal, it comes with your rear main seal. You want to make sure to use that. The little edge can actually cut the seal, so you want to be careful with that. You only have to remove the rear main cap. You don't have to take the other ones loose. I know a lot of guys, they say, oh, you loosen up all of them and this and that. You don't have to do that. So you start it off, you know, at one corner, right? And you're going to use that little paper, right? And you're going to hold it, and at the same time you're going to be rotating the seal, and you're going to spin it around in there, and that is how you're going to get it in. Also, make sure that that seal was lubricated when you were putting it in. And that's it. Once you're done, you just simply pull this thing out, and that's it. You can leave it sticking out a little bit. That's optional. You know, everybody advises differently, but on the instructions for this, they'll tell you for one side to stick out a little bit, and then of course do the same reverse manner on the other one. That way it could be off center. But truth be told, this is a machine finish. You should not have a leak there to begin with. So what I like to do is you know, set it up like this, and then dab a little bit of RTV, just a little bit, very tiny little dab goes a long way, trust me. Like if you look at this amount right here, even that would be a lot. So just put very little right there at that corner of the rear main, and then you're gonna put your other half, and of course they're gonna mate together, and after that you'll be fine. And make sure that the seal is facing the right direction. You see there's like a little V. There's a little V pointed to the front side of the engine. That is how you want it to be. So if you are in a situation like I am and you do have a windage tray on your oil pan, what I had to do was take off the carburetor, put a plate on there so you can pull the motor up evenly, prop the transmission up with a little jack stand and a piece of wood. Get yourself one of those little clickers like that red one that's right there. And what that is basically a starter switch. And that hooks up to your starter. You see the two leads, the black and red lead right there? Well, that's hooked up to the main hot wire of the starter, and then the other to the signal wire. Doesn't matter, you can hook them up either way, doesn't matter. All it's doing is it's jumping the circuit. And by doing that, it'll make it a whole lot easier to turn your flex plate or flywheel if you have a manual. So by doing that, you're able to get to the torque converter bolts a lot easier, because if you got a torque converter bolt at the bottom, once you take it off, you just hit that button and it'll spin the flex plate, and then you'll get to the next one, and so on and so forth. So then after doing that, took all the bell housing bolts off and then pulled the motor away from the transmission, pulled the motor up straight up from my plate up here. So as y'all can see, I don't have my cooling system open, so I didn't make a mess. So cooling system's all good, it's not stretched out. If I had my AC plumbed in already and operational, I would not have had to open my system. Power steering is all still hooked up. Everything is still hooked up. However, I am going to warn you guys to be very careful when you do hook up the switch. Make sure you don't have anything else, any bare power wires anywhere alongside, or anywhere else for that matter, because you will hook up the battery to run the starter, and you don't want to have an exposed bare wire and cause a fire. So be careful with that. Another thing, if you are lifting it up like I had to, make sure you're very aware of all the wires you have back there. You run the risk of pinching a wire if you're not careful. If this isn't your first ball game, sorry, but this is for someone that hasn't pulled out a motor very often. And even still, even us experienced guys, we can sometimes forget something like that and we can pinch a wire by accident. It can happen. Doesn't hurt to just mention. You don't have to disconnect any of your throttle cables or anything like that. TV cable, everything's hooked up. It's not stretched out, but in your case, if you are lifting it high, be very careful not to stretch that. Remember, there's an oil pressure sensor little hose that you might have over there as well. Make sure you don't stretch that. So just be mindful of everything you got back there. So now it's possible to do it without having to completely pull the motor out. Of course, downside is I'm gonna have to be working under there, and droplets of oil are gonna be falling on my face more than likely. But hey, it beats having to spend all the extra time to take my motor completely apart and completely out of there. I really, really would hate to do that again. I've done it before several times for reasons that I'd rather not talk about right now. But anyhow, hopefully this video helps. I know there wasn't any other videos on YouTube about this to see if it was going to be possible or not. So there it is. It is, but it isn't. So anyhow, God bless you guys and stay safe out there. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out.